What's going on, world? It's your boy, Kuya P. This is NRW, where nerds rule the world, and I'm so excited, as you probably clicked on from the thumbnail. I'm talking Essentials from the lab press and the minds behind Essentials. So excited. First up, you know him from Black Sails. He's Long John Silver. He's an amazing author. He's also an amazing actor, but he's stepping into the world of comics with Essentials. Mr. Luke Arnold, how are you, sir?
Yeah, really good. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir. And this man, he gives us Ninjago. He plays with toys. I was just reading about that. I didn't know that about you, Doc. And just been killing the game for such a long time. He's co-writing Essentials with Luke. Mr. Doc Wyatt, how are you, sir?
I am also well.
Well, gentlemen, as we kind of started off before we got recording, I'm one of the blessed people to have been able to read this book before it drops into the hands of everyone in September. I can see why you completely surpassed your Kickstarter goal. It's amazing. And I'm going to be telling everybody to the high heavens because they're going to need to get down with this. Such an inspiring project, such an amazing debut project from the Lab Press. Bravo, gentlemen. Bravo. Let's start off with where this seed of an idea started with you guys. This germ, how did you both link up? Talk to me about the birth of Essentials. Who did it start with? Who met who first? And how did this amazing juggernaut of creativity between you both came into being?
Well, Doc and I have known each other for a while. We first worked together when Doc was a producer on indie films, and I acted in a film. He came out to Australia, made a film. It was my first feature, and we just had an absolute blast. And after that, we went and made another film in Italy, a kind of improvised horror movie. And so since then, we've always been friends, and I came and got to do a voice on Stretch Armstrong and the Flex Fighters that Doc wrote and produced. So we've always been kind of in contact, always been talking about stuff, always been reading each other's material. And then it was kind of around COVID, really, that kind of moment where I guess we had a little more, I think we've all got that list of things you want to get to and people you want to work with. And kind of around that time when things slowed down, this idea of, and I think probably at a time when we were really looking at the world around us and thinking through some certain things. And I think at that point, very much thinking about the way that it feels like everyone's in their own subjective reality, and that we're all kind of living in our own worlds, and that we actually have different realities going on. And so I think that was kind of the beginning of the idea. And it just felt like the perfect thing that Doc and I could get to kind of merge our creative, our kind of different but similar creative minds on.
So Doc, when you got the call from Luke and he had like this little bit of a piece of it together, right? What was that like? And what what was that first bit of conversations of putting this whole thing together?
Well, working with Luke on this was amazing because so myself and the director, we went down to Australia and we knew we needed an Australian lead, and we were auditioning folks in Melbourne to be the lead of the movie we were making. And Luke walked in and he blew us away. I mean, it was in the first audition. I mean, we didn't have a callback, right? I mean, I don't remember. Yeah,
no, there wasn't. Yeah.
Like we just, in one audition, we were like, it's Luke. I mean, that is the guy. He's our guy. I mean, I remember that moment of like, he starts reading and it's like, I look at the director and he looks at me and it's like, we found it. We're done. And so we were on set shooting fast forward a couple months. We're on set shooting we shot mostly in South Australia, a little bit in actually the city of Broken Hill. And Luke, I remember Luke being in the production office and he's talking about these fantasy novels that he's interested in writing, or, and he's like talking about through his ideas. And a little bit in my mind, I'm a little skeptical because Luke is like, he's proving to be a super talented actor. He's a super handsome guy. And it's like, you only get so many gifts in life, right? Like it's like the idea that he's going to also be this novelist. It's like, no, good luck, and he did. Like he got this 3-book deal with a major publisher, and I read the book and I was blown away because like everything, it was so humbling because at that point I've been a TV writer for years, and I'm reading this book and I'm thinking I couldn't have written this. Like this is so deep and this is so good. And there was one chapter where I just wanted to cry, and it was like he's such a good writer. It's like almost he's wasting his talent as an actor, like when he should be writing all the time, you know. But so I became a Luke Arnold fan, as I've always been a fan of Luke Arnold the actor. I became a fan of Luke Arnold the writer. So when this project came along, it was like, oh my gosh, I love this. First of all, I love this idea, and I've got 10 other ideas about where to take this idea. But second of all, am I good enough to write with Luke? Like I've read his stuff, you know what I mean? Like he's pretty astonishing. And I don't know if I really am good enough, but I managed to do it anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay, don't take it too far, but that's very lovely, Doc. Yeah. But I think that but there was something in that. Like I think there's when the germ of this idea beginning with these, you know, these kind of dimensions colliding and the chance to kind of like mix genres and just to create worlds within worlds in this story. I can get varied. Anyone who has read my novels, they especially, you know, the first one in the series, like can get pretty dark, pretty insular. You know, and there was something about this, and my tendency is sometimes to flip to the darker side of things, to kind of really dig down into some of the more, you know, I guess philosophical and I don't know, yeah, go into some places that then it was so great when I think Doc and I really realized, like, that just he's got such a creative mind, and the things that the places Doc decides to take things, where his mind goes, what he's read, what inspires him is stuff I never could have brought. I could have never brought to this. And so I think when this idea and we started first bouncing off each other for the first time, it was so easy, but just so exciting because we were kind of bringing different things to the table with it. And as the pieces started to come together, and I think we fell into a pretty comfortable creative partnership really quickly. It just kind of all took off. And so the momentum for this thing hit very quickly when we started talking through story.
That's amazing. I just love hearing about the magic as a creative, just how people can meet, collaborate, and just kind of come together to create something so beautiful. So I guess without, you know, maybe giving anything away in respects to everything that was done, because we don't want the whole background, because you're going to tell it with these books and these stories. But you live in Australia. Doc is in LA. So how did you, like, I guess the initial writers meeting? So was this like Zoom calls, a lot of emails back and forth? Can you tell me a bit of the pre-pro process on, you know, I guess coming up with the first draft, and then eventually, you know, getting this murderer's row of talent, which is what I want to go to again next, because this is an amazing, like, I'm a comic guy. This is a dream of talent that you guys have on this project. But how was the writers meeting? Okay, like, okay, Doc, I'm down. Luke, I'm down. Like, and just, you know, getting all the ideas together to just kind of plot out, you know, like this is volume 1, volume 2, so on and so forth. If I can go back to you guys.
I mean, we did do some Zooms, though a lot of work happened in VR. We've both got MetaQuest 2s, and we would meet in an environment called workrooms, which is really great because it is like sort of spatial audio. When you're close to someone, you hear it close to you, and when you're distant from someone, it feels further away. And so, like, especially during the art process, where we could put art up on a board and we could meet with our editors, or we could meet just ourselves, and we could like be looking at a shared board so that we were virtually in the same room together. And it also, that process also felt really good, particularly for this creative, in the sense that we are writing stories about people who are trapped in these sort of subjective worlds that of their own creation. And we, in essence, though half a world away from each other, we're inside a kind of a reality that we kind of created. It kind of felt very meta, so it worked.
I think there's also something good about not seeing yourself. I think, especially, there's something that happens when a camera's on you and you're being watched. And I think the most freeing part about it, I think, is that you did kind of feel you're sitting at a table, and whether it's just Doc and I, or whether we were there with the rest of the gang from the lab looking at stuff, there was something, I think you can relax into it a bit more, and you get that sense that you can kind of, while other people are talking, sit back and ponder and enter the conversation, where I think there is something strange creatively when trying to just, come up with ideas when you've got this little thing pointed at your face the whole time. So I think there was something like it didn't solve every problem, and it's not practical in every way. But I do think for a number of reasons, we found it a really kind of fun, freeing way to talk story, as opposed to this, which, Zoom works for a lot of things, but there is something a little stifling about this setup, I think, in a creative sense.
Wow, I'm gonna have to try that. I have an Oculus, MetaQuest 2, and I've worked on another project, but we are doing Zoom meetings. Now, like, I think I need to do that. Yeah, like that is super cool. It set things up in that fashion. I wanted to talk artists, and I still want to get there, but actually, as you guys were just talking just now, I just realized, and this was another question I had when I was thinking of this interview. You both are filmmakers. You come from film industry world. Where did the decision to make this a comic, was the initial idea always a comic? Were you comic fans as young men? Where did that idea come from to turn this into this, and then meeting Lab Press and all that? If I can go to that part, so we have this idea, but why a comic? We're film people.
I mean, definitely, I was a comic fan all growing up, and in fact, in many ways, one of the artists that most impacted and most affected my whole life, and I would say as a comics reader, as a creative, as a filmmaker, like as someone who just sees the world, was Bill Sienkiewicz. Like, I mean, I got to see Bill Sienkiewicz I was there in the shops in the 80s when his first big works were coming out, and I was watching it unfold, and it meant just so much to me. So, not to skip ahead to, where you're going with the artists, but having him doing a cover for Essentials, was such, I mean, I really can't describe what an important event that is in my life.
I feel that it would make the inner kid cry.
Yeah. I remember the first time, it was the first time I'd ever left the country. We went to Italy for the film festival for Broken Hill, and I think that might have been when I think it came up. You brought up comics maybe for the first time, and look, the first job I ever wanted was to be a comics artist. That's when I was like in primary school. That's where I was first practicing telling stories, was all in that world. But then I probably fell off for a bit, and in Australia we were probably more limited with the things we had. So I remember saying to Doc, it's like, into comics. I was like, oh yeah, I'm into comics. I got a few hundred, still in my thing. And Doc's like, a few hundred? Oh, a few hundred? Oh, you gotta come to my place. And so I was very quickly shamed for my thinking I was a comics guy compared to the passion of Doc Wyatt, which is kind of like I do think it was one of the things that started young, and then there's been graphic novels that I picked up along the way. But I definitely, with trying to do so many things, it really was I really had to catch up. Suddenly, when it was like, oh, it was kind of talking about the idea first, and there were kind of different ideas. And when we went no, this is a comic, this is a graphic novel, and kind of the idea of using different artists, that idea in it, once we had that and this idea, it was like, oh, we can do anything, and we can be really audacious. And it's what's really exciting. Like, sometimes you've got an idea and you can see the whole thing, and you're like, oh, cool, that would be really great. And then you've got to sit down and write it, but you can see it. And this was an idea that we're like, oh, I don't know what this is yet. we don't know where this will go. We don't know what we could bring to the table. We don't know what will be explored. And that's when you have an idea like that you're excited by, but you actually, it's a journey that you're going to go on. Like that was the most exciting thing. And so I think really the idea of doing this as a comic with different artists, once we had that, I think for us and the lab, the train left the station, and it was just trying to find people to come on the journey with us as we went.
I love it. I love it. I'm a comics guy. That's the medium I started and then jumped off into the film world. Now I dabble in both. But putting my producer hat on, I also have to say, you know, a lot cheaper to get the ideas out there on this form right now. And then because you have the film background, then you can get the money, because this would require some money. Having read this, like, boom, now you can have them visualize it more so if they're not, you know, seeing it in the picture. Guys, you got something here. You got a franchise. I can't wait. I can't wait to see this journey, because I'm ready for the films, but I'm loving the comics right now. So with that said, I'm just loving this. You guys are amazing. Can we talk to Murderers Row, or maybe what started first? Did Lab Press come before you started bringing on board these artists? Can you talk about that relationship?
Yeah, so the Lab Press is a new publisher, but the people that make up the Lab Press are not new to us. Like, they are filmmakers that we've worked with on both of the projects that Luke mentioned. The project in Australia, the project in Italy. They worked on those projects with us. They worked on separate projects, like projects just that Luke and I have worked on separately, and they've been friends for years in film and in other places. When they were starting a publisher, I mean, I think Luke and I both independently thought, oh, it would be great to work with them, like on comics. Are you kidding? That'd be great too. And so as they started sharing these plans with us, it was like, definitely, like, you know, we love these guys. So we love this team. Yeah, so definitely we knew we were doing this with the lab. When we brought to them the idea, the notion that each reality should have their own artist, which we were delighted by. But I mean, just speaking for myself, I honestly thought they would say, well, you know, it sounds a little hard, guys. How about like two? You know, or like, I don't know, one for each reality. Like, I don't know. But we pitched it, and they went for it. We thought, well, they got to be crazy to do this, because it's not going to be on us. Like, we, as the editors and publishers, that have to deal with the delivery of like 8 different, you know, artists, and like hurting all the you know, everything else, the continuity, like all of that was their problem, not ours. Yeah. So we're like, they're going to think we're crazy, and we pitched it, and they're like, we're in. And we're like, okay, well, they are crazy, but good, but in a good way.
Yeah, it was very, I would say this really, it is ours, but it is so the lab's book. Like, this really, we needed to know at the beginning that they were on board to, get all the different artists. But I also think, you know, once this early on, there was talk of this being their flagship book, the first thing that would come out. So obviously it was going to mean a lot to them. It was going to say a lot about the kind of things they wanted to make. And so I think we got a really good insight into what they're interested in and what they want to do, which is they want to do stuff. They really want to do stuff that they think no one else would do, and do things that you can only do in comics, and do the things, you know, they're being a new publisher. It's not like they can just make everything out there and go like, oh, we want to work with this person, so we'll make their book no matter who they are. They want to do stuff that they really care about, and they can really kind of shepherd through the whole process. Because they do, like, they do so much work on all sides, dealing with the writers and the artists, and then every step to getting this in people's hands. So they want to do stuff that they're passionate about. And the fact that they're kind of crazy and creatives in their own right means that, you know, they're really choosing things that are different, and they are really, you know, I think in a great way, really hands-on with the process. So, you know, both being a part of the art reviewing steps, really open, you know, if there's anything that you're like, you know, only because this is such a wild story, and you're merging all these artists, that even if great art comes back from a great artist, sometimes you're like, oh, we actually need this. They might not have realized why this piece is so needs to happen this way, because it's coming from here to here. So that thing where you're like, oh, we got to go back and we got to pay that artist, you know, they have to pay that artist again to do a whole new thing, or we just changed it. They were like really on board with working for the making sure the book's as great as it can be, and for its, for the sake of the story. So we really could not have done this with anyone else, and if we tried, it would not be the book that it is.
So they did probably a lot of the heavy lifting of the editing side of things. I would assume, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So, and what was that like for you guys? Because you both, are writers, but it's a different thing writing a comic book, and then and detailing, how you want the artist to cover, and like you just said, like, oh, they missed this thing. Very important to have that in that balloon, or that box, right? Or if it's a full splash,
Well, I've done a little bit of comic writing before, and it is about thinking in panels. Like, it's about what makes comics different is you get these crystallized moments in time that are not necessarily even filmable. Like a moment where you've got an action beat and you've got both characters saying a block of text that if that were a film, if that were a TV show, that could not all happen in that same span of time. But because it's a panel, like you and it affords you a great deal of control because you get that very moment that you want to get, the very millisecond that you want to get, as opposed to like with film, there's a little bit of less control because, your any given frame isn't exactly the frame you are presenting, right? And so it's about thinking in terms of frames, thinking in terms of panels. It's also about working with your artist. I mean, what's interesting about a script, a comic script, is that it is a letter to one person. It is a letter to the artist. And so the dialogue, the reader is going to eventually read the dialogue, but nothing else on that page will ever get read by anyone except the artist. So it's almost like a letter between you and the artist. And so you want some flexibility in there. I mean, Luke and I will panel pages, and it'll be a 6-panel page. And then Jason Howard will send back a 7-panel page, and it'll be because he got the sense of what we wanted, but he paneled it out differently. And in usually, I mean, it's better. Usually it's like, oh, Jason saw this in 7 panels and he needed that extra panel, and he was right. You know what I mean? So we will do that. I mean, we do full scripts. We don't do sort of Marvel style scripts. We do fully script because coming from film and TV, like that is the script format you're most familiar with. So we can dialogue out everything. But then when we get back the panels, we do a full, almost Marvel style re-dialoguing of every page. You know what I mean? And it's sort of surprising the way, like, you'll find that stuff you thought you definitely had to have, it's like, oh, that whole thing can go. You know what I mean? Because when you see it laid out in panels, it's like the image already says this. We don't need the words to say this, or...
Exactly. And I don't know about you guys, but I love that process. Or if I'm curious if y'all fell in love with that. And was that easy for you to adjust? Doc having done it, was it easy? How did you like this process, Luke, with this translation and working with Doc to see all of that? Did you? Yeah, I love it.
I think the most exciting part. So in some ways, we needed to break it down by panel. Partly because it was all these artists working together, and there were some kind of complex ideas. And we needed to also know, I think it helps us go like, what can we actually fit on a page? Because, trying to keep page count down while trying to do as much as we're trying to do in this story. So it helps just to go like, cool, this story can fit onto here but then the most fun is when you're like, you're either going like, hey, here's this, or do what you want. Or you feel like there was plenty of moments in this book because we're going into these kind of psychedelic realms with realities merging where there's no way to actually describe it. Like, all you can do is kind of this inspiration piece. It's this like, all right, something like this. Here's the kind of things we're thinking, but you're kind of just almost giving these keywords for an artist to then do a piece of art. And that's really thrilling. But I do think my favorite part of the process is when coming back, seeing the pages and going through our script, and that edit. Like, anyone who's worked in film and TV knows that, like, the desire to fix things in ADR, which is what they call, when you get in a booth afterwards and re-record all the dialogue, that you still want to do that, but everyone's mouths are moving and you've got these shots that don't fit. And the beauty of this, when you're like, oh, we can, based on what art is here. So it's like, we've inspired the artist to do these bits of art. Now we get to look at that art and we're inspired to write to it. And we're not beholden to moving lips. We can now write the dialogue that we're inspired to write based off what they've given us. And that
Yeah.
was so thrilling, so fun. And it's just great knowing that in all, you're working so meticulously through this whole process. And then, at the end, you've just got this like, oh, and then we get to just rewrite it all again based on what comes in. So it's been really fantastic.
That's awesome.
Incidentally, that's also what's good about writing for Iron Man, is because he's got that mascot. Like I wrote for the Marvel's Avengers Assemble TV show, for one show called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And yeah, it was always great to write for Marvel, even because even Spider-Man, you've got Chinwag, that when you ADR, you've got to kind of basically match Chinwag. But with Iron Man, it was just like, oh man, he could say anything now.
Yeah.
Like we could re-script this anyway now.
Oh, I love all this stuff, guys. Just by the way, as a creative, this is the type of stuff that we just feed off of. I'm sure you guys agree. Did you guys have like a wish list? And so back to the artist. I'm sorry we got sidetracked because I love the beauty of this process that we get to do. But okay, the lab press, find us our artists. Did you guys like choose and then they came with these greats again? You have a Murderer's Row. Glenn from Bright, man, like you worked with a Hellblazer dude, man. Like it's amazing. Yeah. Like I love it.
We submitted a wish list, and and it was sort of like we were sort of like good luck, and they kind of killed it.
Yeah, and this was too, the lab being new and kind of like it really was kind of cold calling at that point. And it was a lot of, we'd sometimes write a little love letter to them, but the ones we really wanted, it would kind of be like, all right, this is who we really want. Let's just write a gushing letter about why we think they're great. And the beauty of sometimes, because these aren't all like even chapters, these subjective realities have different page counts. So sometimes it did feel like we're like, hey, we're not asking for the world, not a whole book. Can you just do this thing? And it's like we just got our wish list, like that somehow, we just went, and it was that thing that we'd sit and we'd look at each part and we'd go like, well, who's the perfect kind of artist? And Doc and I'd have a powwow and we'd break our little wish list down, we'd give it to the lab and they'd go out to the world. And then we just got, Jason Howard, Glenn Fabry, Bill Sienkiewicz as a cover, Danny doing some of the trippiest, most fun stuff there. MK Perker, Vince Locke doing a zombie reality, which is like you just go to the guy who's going to do it better than anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe we got Perker. Oh, I'm sorry, Luke.
No, go.
I couldn't believe we got MK Perker. As far as I knew, he wasn't, because he was doing fine art. He was doing he lives in Turkey and he was doing political cartoons. I was a big fan of Air, G. Willison's Air. And I honestly was like, we put MK Perker on the list and they were like, hey, we got MK. And I was like, no. MK Perker. Like in Turkey, in Istanbul. Like it's like, we reached out to him, we got him. It's like, I think you misunderstood. Until we actually got an email from MK, I was secretly kind of thinking it was someone else. You know what I mean? Like that they mixed up something or like whatever, and it was him. I couldn't believe it.
Amazing.
And I'll jump in. Andrea Muti, I think, was the only one I didn't mention who does that, a watercolor space station, and I think that's all our interior artists anyway. Yeah. But no, very lucky.
Yeah, it's just killer, man. I love this playground that you guys created and where you can also do with it going forward. So we've talked about the talent. We talked about the genesis of the story. And thank you about this background, guys. I love this. It's essential information that I need. And we're talking essentials. Everybody, let me also remind folks, the Kickstarter, when this interview will be out, the Kickstarter campaign will still be going on. They've already met their goal, but you're gonna want to order it. You want to get down on the ground floor. This book is amazing. It's amazing. And also there's this Snuggles plush puppet that is one of the tiers. When you actually read this book, you're gonna want to own that puppet, because I know I want to own that puppet right now. It's so dope. And just going forward, I would just recommend that. Guys, let's talk essentials. Now, we've been talking about the background, but now that you're successful in the campaign, there's this first volume that's going to drop and they're going to have it in their hands in September. I'm sure you already have. You guys have done your homework, because there's a lot that goes on in this and with the ideas behind it. Is this a 3-volume? How long is this? Can we talk about the actual span of this story you're building? That, can we talk any, how long this is projected out, what you guys have planned long form. We're getting this first volume out to the people, but just exactly how big of scope is this?
Yeah, we're picturing a trilogy.
Okay.
It was one of those things where I think when we want to deliver a full story, and we have a full story. And once we started digging into it, there was actually a version of this first book that kind of had more in it. And we tried delivering a reasonable, achievable version of the story. And we just realized we were moving past things too fast. We were missing things we wanted to do. So it was somewhere actually during the process, we'd kind of gone back and we were trying to shear it down into something, that maybe didn't, that told a bit more of the story. And we just went like, no, we need to sink our teeth into it. And so we were kind of really lucky and glad that when we did that, the lab were like, all right, you could break it up. It's like we like this script more. We like spending more time. So the story will continue. We're now picturing a trilogy. There is, and there, and things are definitely happening. We'd like to think like we've given you a good meal with the first one, that even though it's like the story will continue, that you probably, and hopefully you're excited for more when you get to the end, but you're also like, all right, I think your brain is full of everything we serve you there. And then, hopefully we'll be excited to get more down the line. But yeah, this is something that will be completed and finished. Not a fully ongoing story that keeps happening. So we've got an end in sight.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully one big tasty meal with the first book, and then more to come soon.
So the first volume, the first taste, that I'm telling you, fans, you're gonna want to enjoy this first taste. I'm already ready for volume 2. And so with that being said, so like we get in volume 1 in September. Is there like once a year maybe plan? Because we got to get everybody working, drawing, all the talents behind.
We'll have to defer. We'll have to defer to the lab on scheduling stuff.
Okay.
But I guess all we can really say is work is already underway.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just so hungry for it. You wanted people to have a taste, Luke. I'm not satisfied yet. I want more.
It is. We're really working to keep it moving fast and getting out. And I think the first thing, is a lot of it was just seeing how this Kickstarter goes, and this first, getting books out into people's hands for the first time. And then I'm sure right now the lab's just assessing how fast we can move everything from here. But it's on the way.
It's exciting. Will the same kind of concept? Okay, so you guys are kind of like the glue to Essentials as the writing team. You used a bunch of different artists because it works with this story. Will we get a new set of artists in volume 2, or will there be a different set?
Mostly a new set with some of our Jason Howard, ideally continuing with him as our kind of core objective reality artist, but then we get to bring a whole bunch of new people to the party.
Awesome. I cannot wait. Doc, Luke, you guys hit it. You hit a home run out the gate at your first at bat. Lab Press have really scored. They're now going to be on my eyes, and you guys are just absolutely killing it. When this next volume drops, I would love to have you guys back and chat it up. And I want to give you your flowers, because just bravo, gentlemen. Bravo.
We'd love to be back. So thank you for having us.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, Luke Arnold, Doc Wyatt, Essentials, the Lab Press. Go over to Kickstarter. I'm going to have the link in the description below. Go get your copy now. Follow, do all the things. It's so good. I can't recommend it enough. Highly recommend. It's your boy Kuya P. Nerds rule the world.
Thank you for having us. Cheers.
Guys. Recording. Just let me grab my hat. Shiny bald head over here. Don't want to blind everyone. All right, here we go in a 1, 2, 3.